They say every family has a go-to person. For mine, that's always been me, the tech guy. Need help setting up your new phone? Call me. Wi-Fi down? I'm your guy. Printer jammed? Again? You bet I'll be under that desk sweating it out while everyone else eats dessert. I'm 38 now, still working IT for a small but stubbornly outdated insurance company in Topeka, Kansas. And yeah, I've been fixing more than just their back-end systems. I've been quietly patching my family together one half-hearted favor at a time. But last weekend, that was the last straw. Or at least the one that finally snapped something inside me. I gave my cousin Heather a check for $2,500 for her wedding. Not because I could afford to be generous, but because I thought, just this once, maybe showing up big would mean something. Maybe I'd be seen not just as a utility, but as a member of the family. Stupid, I know. I stuffed the check into a card, dropped it in a fancy white envelope, sealed it with that cheap gold sticker from the store. I even tucked a handwritten note inside. Something about wishing her and her new husband real happiness. Something heartfelt. Here's the twist, and it came fast. Less than 15 minutes later, the envelope turned up again. Open. The check? Gone. No thank you. No mention of it at all. Just my aunt, her mom, handing me her phone and saying the photographer was running late and could I take some quick shots during the ceremony. That's when I noticed I wasn't listed on the seating chart. Not even at the cousin's table. I wasn't on any table. They didn't forget me. They omitted me. I stood there in the corner of that golf course clubhouse with my camera in one hand, staring at the laminated seating layout duct taped to an easel. The irony didn't hit me until much later. I'd become the help. And not even well-paid help. Volunteer, invisible help. I didn't make a scene. That's not who I am. I took the damn photos. Got shots of Heather smiling at her husband like she hadn't just emotionally pickpocketed someone she'd known since childhood. Got one of her dad, too. The same uncle who once told me I'd never be able to fix a relationship if all I ever fixed were computers. Then I left. No one noticed. Not even when I slid my camera into its case and walked out during the first dance. My car was the only one parked in the gravel patch near the maintenance shed, the overflow lot, apparently. That night, sitting in that dark Hyundai Elantra with my tie already halfway undone, I canceled the check. Quietly. No drama. No announcement. Just logged into my bank's app and hit stop payment. And that should have been it, right? But it wasn't. Because when I got home, I opened up a spreadsheet I've been keeping for years, a tally of every favor, every unpaid repair, every trip I made to help someone just this once. Printer setups, malware removals, home networks built from scratch, endless phone support on weekends, even a NAS I configured for my uncle's side business. All free. I added it up. $9,472 worth of services if I were billing at my modest freelance rate. And suddenly, I didn't feel generous. I felt used. That night, I unplugged the external hard drive I'd gifted my aunt 2 Christmases ago and emailed her a link to a cloud backup I'd made, with an expiration date. She texted me the next morning. Hey, the drive stopped working. Did something happen? I replied, yes. Then I turned my phone off, brewed some coffee, and realized something that should have come to me years ago. The only thing keeping me invisible was the part of me that kept volunteering to disappear. The thing about silence, real silence, is that it's never empty. It's crowded. Every favor I ever did echoed in that space. The times I skipped lunch breaks to fix a niece's broken laptop. The weekend I spent untangling a half-baked smart home setup that my uncle installed backwards. Even the time I drove to Wichita at 2 a.m. because my cousin's phone wouldn't turn on and she needed it for work, though her Instagram post told a different story. That night, I opened a folder I hadn't touched in months, Family Tech Requests. Just the title made me laugh. Like it was some organized service center, not one overworked guy with a screwdriver and unresolved abandonment issues. I started scrolling. The dates went back years. Router installations, free data recovery, malware cleanups, digital photo restorations. I'd logged it all, half out of habit, half out of the quiet hope that one day someone might recognize the time I gave them. They never did. So I started sending messages. Not angry ones, just invoices. Friendly, itemized invoices. One to my aunt for that security camera setup I spent a Saturday doing, complete with a friends and family discount at the bottom. Another to my cousin Michael for 2 hours of FaceTime tech support when he forgot his iCloud password for the 3rd time. And one to Heather, yes, the bride, with a note that said simply, since the check was never cashed, I figured you preferred an itemized service summary. The responses came in waves. Aunt, this has to be a joke, right? Cousin Michael, Dude, are you okay? Heather? She left me on read. And maybe this should have made me feel petty. Maybe I should have stopped. But instead, I felt free. Because here's the thing, my family had always treated my time like it didn't cost me anything. Like showing up for them wasn't also saying no to myself. No to my own weekends, my own rest, my own projects. And I let them, year after year. Because deep down, I thought maybe if I gave enough, they'd finally see me as something more than convenient. The worst part? I liked helping them. Genuinely. It made me feel needed. Useful. Until I realized they didn't need me. They needed a human Swiss Army knife. Someone to solve their problems, but never become one of them. And then came the kicker. My dad called. I hadn't heard from him in almost 5 months. Not since Christmas, when I'd set up his smart TV and quietly fixed the Wi-Fi he'd blamed the cable company for. His voicemail? He asked if I could help install some software for his new laptop. Said he'd swing by Saturday. Not a word about the wedding. Not a word about the check. Just a task. Like I was a service he subscribed to. I didn't call him back. I didn't block him either. I just let the voicemail sit there like a rusting nail on a deck I wasn't going to fix anymore. That weekend, I did something wild. I took a day off. No calls, no texts, no updates. I went to Lake Shawnee with a paperback and a thermos full of coffee. Sat on a bench near the edge and watched the paddle boats move across the water, their passengers laughing at nothing. Just existing. I wasn't angry that day. Just tired. And tired has a way of clarifying things. There's a shelf in my garage. Old pine, half bent in the middle like it's tired of standing. On it sits a pile of random boxes and cables, adapters, routers, ancient hard drives labeled in faded Sharpie. But when I look at that shelf, I don't see equipment. I see every favor I never got back. That dusty Netgear router? I gave up a Saturday to help set that up for my cousin's friend, who was like family. The cracked iPad in the shoebox? Repaired for free for my uncle's neighbor. Someone I didn't even know, because he heard I was good with this stuff. And the old camcorder at the bottom? From my aunt's second wedding. She asked me to film it. Said it would mean a lot. I gave her a highlight reel with music and transitions. She never said thank you. I found it years later, stuffed in my parents' attic, still in the bag I lent her. That shelf is my museum. Not of tools, of boundaries I didn't set. I'll be honest with you. It wasn't just about being the nice guy. It was fear, too. Fear being left out. Fear that if I said no, they'd stop inviting me to the cookouts, the birthdays, the last-minute Christmas dinners they only told me about when someone realized no one had brought dessert. I was the fallback, the backup plan, the guy you call when you forgot to plan. It's not easy admitting that I enabled it. That part of me got something out of being needed, even if it meant never being truly wanted. But there was a moment, small, stupid, but it stuck, that made something shift for good. I was at Heather's wedding rehearsal the night before it all blew up. No one had introduced me to the photographer, but I overheard him asking the bride's mom if he could do an early test shoot. She looked around and, without even thinking, said, "Ask my nephew, he's good with that stuff." I wasn't standing next to her. I wasn't even in the conversation. She just pointed, like I was a prop she kept on standby. Not a person, just a Swiss Army knife and slacks. I said no. First time in years. She blinked like she didn't understand the word. But the moment I said it, "Sorry, I'm not here in that capacity," something inside me unclenched. Like I finally realized the difference between being useful and being used. And I know how this sounds. Bitter. Petty even. Like some middle-aged tech guy having a midlife crisis with a side of vengeance. But it's not about vengeance. It's about clarity. About finally looking at that garage shelf and saying, "I'm not adding to this anymore." I moved the shelf last week. Took the whole thing down and dumped half the stuff at Goodwill. The rest I trashed. That old camcorder? I dropped it in a bin without a second thought. For the first time in years, there's space on that wall. After I cleaned out the garage, I turned off my phone for 3 days. No texts, no missed calls, no buzzing reminders that I was on call for a family that didn't even think to ask if I was okay. Just silence. It felt like pulling the power cord on a machine that had been humming in the background of my life for far too long. You'd think someone would notice. You'd think one person, just one, would reach out and say, "Hey, haven't heard from you. Everything all right?" But no, the world kept spinning. My absence didn't create a ripple. It didn't even register. That should have hurt. Honestly, I thought it would, but it didn't. What hurt was realizing that I had built this dynamic. I taught them I was always available, always reachable. The guy who never said no, never set limits, never made anyone feel the weight of their request. I was the reliable one, but never the valued one. My therapist, yeah, I finally got one, calls it invisible labor. She said it like it was obvious, like I should have known. All those years of showing up with tools, showing up with knowledge, showing up when no one else would, wasn't just helpful. It was conditioning. For me. For them. She asked me something that stuck. What would happen if you didn't pick up next time? And now I know the answer. Nothing. The first message that came through when I turned my phone back on wasn't from my dad, or Heather, or even my mom. It was from my cousin Tony, the one who once asked me to fix his crypto mining rig because it wasn't hashing right. The text just said, "Bro, weird error on my GPU. Got time? No, how are you? No, hope you're well. Just a request." Like I was still plugged in. I stared at the message for a while. Then I replied, "Sorry, I don't do tech work for family anymore." He responded with a laughing emoji. Thought I was joking. I wasn't. When I didn't reply, he tried again. "Seriously though, just 10 minutes of your time. Please." I left it on read. That was 2 weeks ago. Haven't heard from him since. I started a list. Not out of spite. Out of clarity. A list of people who only reached out when they needed something. It's not a short list. And not one name on it ever asked about me. It made me rethink every birthday text I never got. Every family event I helped set up but was left out of in the photos. Every time I brought my tools but never got off her plate. I remember one Thanksgiving in particular, 3 years ago. My Aunt Smart Oven stopped working mid-turkey. Panic ensued. I missed the entire meal, rebooting her system and reinstalling the control app. When it was done, the turkey was cold, and so was my seat because they had already eaten without me. Told me there were leftovers in the fridge. That was the night I sat in a laundry room with a paper plate and a warm beer, wondering if maybe I was the only one who remembered I was there at all. Now I know better. A few nights after I cleaned out the garage, I got an email from Heather. Subject line, "Can you send the raw footage from the wedding? We want to make a video." That was it. No greeting. No thank you. Just a demand, like I was a vendor she forgot to tip. Now, I should mention something. Even though they didn't officially assign me as the videographer, they hadn't assigned me anything at all. Technically, I recorded the whole damn thing. Old habits die hard. My DSLR was on a tripod during the vows. A second camera propped up near the dance floor, and I had my GoPro clipped discreetly to the altar for a wide shot. Yeah, I know. Stupid. Part of me still wanted to impress them. Or maybe, more truthfully, I wanted evidence. Not for a lawsuit or anything, just for myself. So I never doubt how bad it really was. And it was bad. I rewatched the footage before replying, just to be sure I wasn't overreacting. But there it was. Me, clearly in the background of half the clips, taking photos, moving chairs, wiping my forehead with a napkin while everyone else clinked glasses and danced. At one point, the wedding coordinator even hands me a mop because someone spilled punch and the staff was busy. I wasn't even on the payroll. Then came the kicker. During the bouquet toss, you can hear my aunt off camera telling someone that she was surprised he even showed up. You know how he gets. The voice laughs. Another joins in and says, "Well, at least he's making himself useful." I watched that part twice. No one said my name, but they didn't have to. It was so casual, so confidently dismissive, that it felt worse than a direct insult. They weren't just indifferent. They were comfortable with my absence. I sat in the dark for a long time after that, letting the footage play on a loop in the background. All these people smiling, laughing, posing for pictures. And there I was, a shadow on the edge of the frame. Always in the room, never in the shot. So I did something I hadn't planned. I cut a short video, just under 2 minutes. A highlight reel of moments where I was clearly being used, the mop scene, the camera handoff, me being waved away from group photos. Overlaid it with the audio of that comment about being surprised he even showed up. No effects, no music, just a clean, brutal montage of what my presence really looked like. Then I replied to Heather's email. I attached the highlight reel, titled it for reference. Underneath I wrote, "Raw footage is available upon request, but you might want to actually acknowledge I was there first." She hasn't responded. It's been 5 days. And the silence? This time it feels good. After the wedding fiasco and the silence that followed, I half expected some sort of backlash. A passive-aggressive text from Heather. A guilt-laced call from my mom. Maybe even a dramatic family group chat explosion. But there was nothing. Not even a scene checkmark on the email. I should have felt hurt. I used to measure my worth by their responses, their reactions. But not this time. This time, the silence didn't feel like rejection. It felt like space. Breathing room. For the first time in years, I wasn't operating in emergency mode, waiting to be summoned like a fire extinguisher someone keeps in a closet and forgets until something burns. It took a couple weeks, but the shift was noticeable. My phone still buzzed now and then, but the nature of the messages had changed. A few were apologies in disguise. My aunt sent a text with a recipe and a note that read, Made this tonight and thought of you. Hope you're doing okay. She never cooks. It was weird. Felt like guilt trying to wear casual clothes. Then came the unexpected one. From my dad. He asked how my job was going. Said he saw an article about cybersecurity and thought of me. I read it 3 times, trying to decipher the angle. But there wasn't one. Just a quiet attempt at connection. It was almost worse than no message at all. Because it reminded me of all the times he could have reached out and didn't. All the years of me showing up for every little emergency. But him never showing up when it wasn't convenient. I remember the time I got promoted and he barely acknowledged it. Said something about those tech companies always inflating titles. Like I made it up to feel special. And yet, here he was suddenly interested, or trying to be. I didn't reply right away. Instead, I stared at the old corkboard on my office wall. It was cluttered with printouts, reminders, and scribbled notes from a life that used to revolve around helping other people. One note stood out, something I wrote to myself last year during a rare moment of honesty. You can't earn love by being useful. Only exhaustion. I took it down and stuck it on my fridge. I needed the reminder somewhere more visible. A week later, I sent a short reply to my dad. Just said, works fine. Hope you're well. That was it. No questions. No wodoms. Just polite distance. A boundary. And for once, it felt like enough. I've been cleaning more than just the garage. My inbox. My call log. My calendar. I removed all the repeating events labeled family tech help. Unsubscribed from that emotional contract. When Tony tried to call again, probably about his GPU, I let it ring. Then blocked the number. Felt like uninstalling a virus. I'm not angry anymore. That was a younger version of me, the one still hoping they'd change. Now I'm just done. It happened at a birthday party. My cousin Olivia's kid turned 5, and despite everything, I went. Old habits again. I figured it's a child's party. Low stakes. No drama. Maybe I'd sit in the back, eat some cake, and sneak out without anyone noticing. I should have known better. It was held at one of those bounce house rental spaces just outside Topeka. Fluorescent lights, sugary air, the faint smell of socks and hand sanitizer. I walked in with a gift under my arm and tried to slip past the crowd unnoticed. I saw my name on a folding table sign. My stomach dropped. Not because they had forgotten me. Because they hadn't. The table was there. The sign said Jake. But no chair. There were 8 folding chairs around the table and 9 name tags. Mine was the only one without a seat. I stood there a moment, blinking like maybe I missed something. Maybe the chair got moved. Maybe someone was borrowing it. But no, everyone else was seated comfortably, laughing, eating store-brand cupcakes, watching toddlers tumble over each other. No one noticed me standing. Not even when I set the gift on the table and took 2 steps back. Eventually, someone, I think it was Olivia's husband, saw me hovering and gave an awkward wave, gesturing toward the drink station. No epalegi. No acknowledgement. Just a nonverbal shrug. Find your own way. So I did. I grabbed a lukewarm soda, leaned against the far wall, and watched. Watched how everyone had a place. Watched how they talked over each other and into their phones. Watched how, for all their chaotic messiness, they belonged to each other. And how I had spent years earning a seat at a table that never had a chair for me. I stayed for 33 minutes. I know, because I watched the time on my phone like it owed me something. When I left, no one stopped me. Not even the birthday kid who was too busy melting down over a balloon animal. That night, I made a rule. No more standing around for people who can't even save me a place to sit. I added it to a list I keep now. It's not dramatic, just a quiet page in the Notes app on my phone. Titled Non Negociables. Rules for myself. No favors without acknowledgement. No more just stopping by to help. No more showing up where I'm not expected or respected. Never again sit at a table that doesn't make room for you. That last one, it isn't just about folding chairs. It's about value. I used to think being ignored was passive, that people just forgot, got busy, drifted. But lately, I've realized that being ignored can be intentional. It's a decision, a quiet one, a soft erasure, and it happens in real time. It was clearest when I ran into my Uncle Mark at Dillon's, the grocery store just off 29th. The man who once called me Family IT, like it was a job title. He was walking out with a cart full of soda and charcoal, clearly stocking up for something, probably one of those backyard grill outs I stopped getting invited to. We made eye contact, brief, unflinching, and then he looked straight past me. Walked right by, not even a nod, not a word. I stood in the self-checkout line with a frozen pizza and a box of allergy meds, feeling like a ghost. Not the dramatic, spooky kind, just invisible. I kept wondering, if I hadn't canceled that check, if I had shown up with a toolkit instead of silence, would he have acknowledged me? Probably. which says everything. It wasn't just about that moment. It was a pattern, years of being seen only through the lens of what I could do for them. And the second I stopped performing, I ceased to exist. It reminded me of something small but telling. My cousin Brittany once messaged me in a panic because she couldn't print her grad school thesis. Her deadline was midnight. I fixed the issue remotely in 10 minutes. No thanks. No update on how the paper went. 2 weeks later, she posted a long Facebook tribute thanking her support system. I wasn't mentioned. Back then, I told myself it didn't matter. That helping was its own reward. That being behind the scenes was noble. Now I see it differently. Being invisible doesn't make you selfless. It just makes you easy to forget. And I don't think they hate me. That's the strangest part. I don't think there's malice. I think they genuinely don't see me anymore. Like I've been reduced to a collection of skills and quiet yes. A vending machine that occasionally says no service. You want to know the worst part? There's still a part of me that wishes I could fix it. That I could plug back in, be useful again, get back in their orbit. Not because I want the work, but because I still want the closeness I thought came with it. But that version of closeness was counterfeit. It was a trade deal dressed up as love. So now, when I walk through the produce aisle and see familiar faces turn away, I remind myself, they're not ghosting me. They're ghosting the version of me that let them take without limit. And that version? He's gone. I burned the list. Not the Notes app one, that's still there. I mean a real one. Paper, pen, tangible, messy handwriting. I had scribbled down every favor, every slight, every time I swallowed my voice to keep peace that no one ever protected in return. It wasn't meant to be symbolic at first, just a brain dump. But by the time I reached the back of the page, it felt like confession, like mourning. I sat on the back patio one evening, the sky that flat Kansas gray that turns lavender just before dark, and I lit the page in an old barbecue tray. Watched it curl and crumple and finally vanish. Felt nothing at first, then something bitter behind my ribs, not pain, exactly, more like the shadow of it. A leftover. Somewhere in that slow burn, I realized something. I didn't just want distance. I wanted closure. But the kind of closure I wanted, a genuine apology, a reckoning, someone saying, "We took advantage of you and we're sorry," wasn't coming. And I finally believed that. So I gave myself the closest thing I could. Closure without confrontation. Peace without performance. And you know what else I let burn with that list? The guilt. The guilt of not showing up, of not replying, of not fixing. The guilt they trained into me over decades. Not with cruelty, but with expectation. I was the tech guy, the helper, the safe pair of hands. And when I wasn't those things, I was nothing. Just extra weight on the guest list. There's a kind of grief in that. Mourning the version of yourself that tried so hard to belong. That thought being indispensable was the same as being loved. But grief, as it turns out, is quieter than anger. It doesn't scream. It just sits beside you on the patio while the sun goes down, whispering things you finally have the space to hear. I think that's when I started seeing my life as mine again. Not something I owed to a family tree that never grew in my direction. I didn't become selfish. I became whole. There's a difference. That night, I didn't dream about them. I didn't dream at all. And when I woke up, I didn't check my phone. Didn't scroll through old texts. Didn't rehearse conversations in my head. I made coffee, sat in the quiet, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel like something was missing. Because maybe nothing was ever missing. Maybe I was just buried. There was one moment I kept coming back to. It's small, almost laughably so, but it stuck like a splinter under the skin. Heather's wedding, right before I left early, back when I still thought leaving might get someone's attention. I had walked up to the gift table to say my quiet goodbye. No one was there. The DJ was blasting some pop song about forever love, the lights flashing like they were trying too hard to create joy. I stood by that table, just looking at it. All those shiny envelopes, carefully propped between wrapped blenders and crock pots. I saw mine. It had been opened. The envelope was still there, crumpled, half-tucked under someone else's card, but the check was gone. Not cashed. Gone. And there wasn't a thank you. Not that night. Not the next day. Not ever. That was the moment. The exact second I stopped waiting. I took a photo of the empty envelope, not out of pettiness, though maybe part of me was petty, but because I needed proof. Not of the theft, of the feeling. The deep, hollow click of realization. I was never going to be seen the way I saw them. I could give and give and give, and I'd still be background noise to their celebration. I canceled the check that same night. No announcement. No confrontation. Just logged into the bank app from the parking lot and hit cancel. And as I watched the confirmation spin, I felt lighter. I used to think gratitude was optional, that people showed love in their own ways. And maybe that's true for normal families. But mine? They showed love through expectation. If you fulfilled it, they kept you around. If you didn't, they replaced you with someone who would. A neighbor, a friend, a random kid from church. Anyone willing to carry the weight without complaint. That check was never about money. It was about being counted. And when it disappeared, literally and figuratively, so did any illusion that I mattered to them beyond what I could offer. After that, I stopped saying yes. Not loudly, not dramatically, just consistently. It turns out no doesn't need volume to be powerful. It just needs repetition. Now, when my phone buzzes with a family contact I haven't heard from in months, I let it ring. When I get a text asking if I still have that label maker or know anything about Wi-Fi extenders, I don't respond. I don't even open it sometimes. And every time I don't reply, it's like I'm reclaiming another inch of myself. One of my coworkers, someone who barely knows this side of me, told me last week that I seem calmer lately. I just nodded. Didn't tell him I burned a list. Didn't tell him I walked away from a whole extended family. Just said, yeah, I've been cleaning house. The strange thing about absence is what shows up in its place. Not always people, not even silence. Sometimes it's just space, unoccupied, unfamiliar, almost unsettling at first. But eventually, that space becomes something else, possibility. I've started filling mine with things that don't ask much of me. A bike ride at dusk through Gage Park. Rebuilding an old stereo from high school that still smells faintly like solder and regret. Weekly trivia night at the local bar, where nobody knows I'm good with computers. They just think I'm Jake who always gets the music round. I like that version of me, the one with no label. I thought cutting ties would leave me empty, but it didn't. It left me clear, like clearing browser tabs you didn't realize were slowing everything down. And now, every new connection I make, every casual conversation, I don't overthink. It feels earned. Simple. Real. Sometimes I wonder if they miss me. Not out of spite. Just curiosity. Do they notice the gap? The birthday that passed without my usual, help me fix the speakers visit? The group photo without the guy holding the camera? Maybe. Maybe not. But here's what I know now. If you have to disappear to be noticed, you were never really seen in the first place. Last weekend, I ran into someone who did notice. Not family. Just an old neighbor, Ms. Cardwell, the widow from 2 doors down who used to bring us banana bread when we were kids. She saw me in the checkout line at Ace Hardware and smiled like I hadn't aged a day. Said she hadn't seen me in a while and was hoping I was doing all right. No request. No ask. Just a small, quiet offering of presence. I told her I was doing better than I had in years. And it wasn't a lie. Because I've stopped offering parts of myself like they're spare cables in a drawer. I've stopped fixing things for people who don't know how to say thanks. I've stopped setting up tables where I'm not even given a chair. And most of all, I've stopped waiting for the thank you that never comes. Now I spend my time with the people who show up without needing something. People who see me not for what I can do, but for who I actually am, even if that person is still figuring it out. And maybe that's the point of all this. Not to get justice, not even to be heard, just to finally hear yourself again.